I couldn't access my video or my microphone, and I had to just figure it out. And I was like, oh, it's because this is other programs running. So because, yeah, I was sitting here, and nothing was happening, and you weren't popping up. And then I just went out to have to see if this office staff would reach out to you, and then I came back in and you were there. And I was like, oh, well, lucky. Luckily, I don't know. We're just right in time, I guess. Yeah. Because I was like, Austin, he's always on track unless he's, like, traveling and forgot to tell me about it. I was streaming is what happened. Nice. Another thing, but I have my notifications on my phone, so I looked at it. I was like, oh, yeah. Try to join in. I was streaming Call of Duty. It was there, like, the original. Like, the new it just came out. Released in 2023. There's a newest one that came out in 2024. It's Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Okay. And this one is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Okay. So I was just playing that. It's like I was just playing to the campaign, trying to, I don't know, see if I can make my dreams come true still of just being a streamer and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I have 150,000 subs now. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah. I just think that with YouTube is, like, this one I could reapply in March, but I just think that it was like I did a bunch of little short videos, and I was just, like, trying something else that was different. I was like, oh, let me try to do these clips of videos from the internet. And they're like, oh, it's not your stuff or something like that. So I just think I had to delete all those. But they said I could reapply in March, and, hopefully, I can actually get an active audience. That would be nice. You know? Yeah. I get, like, 100 views, and there's a couple people from around the world to, like, join in, but it's, like, just 2 or 3 people. You know? Like, why are you spinning? Yeah. It's just, like, while I'm streaming or all my videos, the people, like, comment. It's, like, consistently, like, 2 or 3 people. You know? So it just needs to be a lot more active than that. But I was just streaming I don't know. Because I don't know. First off, I don't know what else to do during the day. Right. You know? So it's like in second off, I'm just trying to capitalize on that a little bit. So I don't, that's all I've been doing. But, yeah, that's I don't know. And since this last week, since we connected, I guess not done much. Just push through the week. It's just kind of been the same old thing. I've every once in a while, I think about, oh, yeah. I did gather up and collect all my poems in, like, one document. Yeah. I just have to transcribe them now because they're not all written down. They're all, like, me reading them online. So I have to retranscribe them all into text if I'm gonna do, like, a book with them or something. Yeah. So just, take this is gonna take a little bit of time as soon as I do that, but I've gotten a list of, like, everything that I feel like is book-worthy at least. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, I went through all of them, and I had, like, it's, like, a list of, like, I don't know, 40 or so poems or something. So let's see. I have it in my notes. Oh, it's actually on my Google Drive. I don't know. It's not that important that I know the exact number of stuff that I've done. You know? But instead I also was like, oh, well, if I do that, then I could also do, like, some short stories, a short book of short stories too. You know? So I have my poetry thing. It's like, 123 I don't know. It's quite a list. It's like as you can see, it's like let's see if I can get this. Oh, it's green screening my phone out. Right. I can see it. Yeah. You can see it. It's like see that? It's like the list of, like, all my okay. Yeah. quite a big list. But then I have another one that I was like, oh, well, if I'm doing that, then I can do these short stories as well. So and make a book out of that. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm that eloquent of a poet or not. Or you at least right now, kinda what I'm seeing is I don't know. Part of you, it feels like, is being a little bit more motivated and productive. Do you feel that way? Well, you know what, I just know how terrible it is to just sit around. It's like it really is, like, the worst thing you can do during the day, especially if you're struggling with this stuff, like laying around on the couch is just hard. But for a while there, you know what? When I first came out of this whole experience, it was like I was afraid to do anything challenging or anything that might, relate to my position before with that where I got in trouble. So I was avoiding gaming and streaming and doing all these things because I wanted to try to clarify exactly what it was that I did that brought me to the situation I was experiencing. So I was avoiding, everything. At one point, I was just like, I don't know what's gonna get me in trouble or exactly you know what I mean. Like, it's if that's for a relative in this world, as to, what somebody does. You go on the internet and you see people doing all sorts of crazy things, not necessarily violent or hurting people. Right? But just in terms of, their actions that try to get attention. Right? You know what I mean? And so it's just like, what exactly was I doing that did that? It's hard. It's a hard world to try to balance on that thing of, do I dare do that? Do I dare cook pancakes with the flamethrower, kind of thing? And just because on the internet, it's just like, oh, that sounds kinda interesting for a second. You know? But in terms of the people around you, it's not a yes, unless you're discussing with them beforehand and everything like that. But it's just like, I obviously had a lack of communication, and I had some belief systems that, money was this imaginary thing, and all you had to do was just be courageous enough to try to live the life you wanted to. So I was just pushing headstrong into you know what? I'm not gonna live a life where my day-to-day living is something that I don't want to experience. And I pushed that to the extreme. I was like, I'm not gonna seriously go through this world and be somebody who just works on 9 to 5 and, just hates it. So I was living that to the extreme. And, anyways, how this all relates to this last week or whatever is, I've just been trying to filter out exactly what I can and can't do with that doesn't cause problems. Right? So it's just like, okay. Well, as long as I don't do anything that is any sort of endangering or if I don't speak with somebody about doing something that seems like a little off. No? Because my mother it's just like she doesn't associate that it's like, Mom, I'm doing YouTube, and it's like people love crazy stuff. It's like people love seeing crazy stuff. She doesn't associate, she just thinks that, no. You genuinely have problems. And I'm like, Mom, I'm just trying to get attention, for these videos or whatever. My medication is finally now. It's not necessarily schizophrenic medication anymore. It's like bipolar mood disorder, just like, somebody who has very high highs and very low lows, kind of thing. So it's like, good. Kudos. I got off that and, at least convince somebody that I actually can reason with reason things out. But anyways, so, yeah, I've just slowly but surely got a little bit more sure-footed, I feel like, in terms of what I can do during the day, and in finding my space and in all these things. You know what? Some things have changed, though. It's like I have a different computer set up in a different room, so I'm not just in my bedroom. And, I think some of the medication helps me with anxiety and stuff. A lot of what? I was feeling very depressed, in my life, and it's like, yeah. We should probably tackle those things. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of those things should be tackled. And if I can somehow balance out my mood, then that's good as well. It's just like I do notice some things. It was like my mouth gets really dry and stuff like that. I think from some of the medication, it's like, oh, man. I need a drink. Or it's just it's, like, different. It's not the same form of, like, speech and inhibition that I had before. It's different. You know? It's like before, it was more of, like, I was, like, tripping over words. Kinda thing. A lot of it was, like, tripping over words that, like, had a lot of motion with my mouth, and it was almost like, like I had been in the cold for a long time. And I was unable, my mouth was unwarmed up or something like that. I don't know. But this one's a little bit different. It's just as, like, oh, my mouth gets super dry, and then it's, like, speaking is very slow. And it's just different, but it's, like, acts somewhat on the same receptors or whatever. But, anyways, yeah, just like I was saying, it all kinda connects. Like, some things have definitely changed, like, where I do my activities in the house and things like that. It's like some things. It's like they cut my hair because I just realized, you know what? If I can stay as far away from that as possible, being associated with somebody who doesn't take care of themselves, then I'm going to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't like my long hair or wanted short hair. It was just like, you know what? For my circumstance right now, it's probably best that I just live according to standards that everybody else here is living to in terms of what they look like even. Because I want to stay as far away from being associated with somebody who's being rebellious. I feel like there's obviously a little bit more freedom granted if I was, like, on my own. Right? If I had my own place and I was accumulating my own wealth, then I wouldn't have to be. It's like as long as I'm not literally breaking the law, I could basically do whatever I wanted to. You know? And then it's like it's not that 3 wasn't breaking the law. You know? The only legal issue was, like, if they said I had to pay rent, which I obviously couldn't, that's really the only legal issue that would have ever came up before. But it's hard to try to, like, communicate that with people, when all of a sudden you just get taken away and it's like, you're all of a sudden in this system and it's like, you have to wait. You're gonna wait an hours for to speak with somebody and they're all of a sudden come with you with a pre-diagnosis and all these things. And they haven't. It's like, you know what? Nobody I've talked to I was like, you guys, I have my last 6 months of my life on record. You guys want to see what I was like? You don't have to take my mom's word for it or my dad's or whatever. I literally have it on record the last 6 months of my life or whatever. You know what I mean? It's, like, right there. And it's like, you could obviously judge it, but it's like, you don't have to take my mom or dad's word for whatever is going on, but nobody did, obviously. So it's a very difficult situation, very humbling. It's like it just has made me feel like a lot of this is out of control. You know? Where do I have control of my life even? And what is life? I've had to reformat all of those things. You know? And it's like I finally kind of feel like I'm in a place where it's like, I'm not so bogged down by the drugs and the medication. There's still some things that's like, yeah, it's annoying. I'm just getting over being sick as well with some cough or strep throat kind of thing. I think I kinda had that last time when I got on or whatever. I was like, oh, I just won't cough, and I started hacking up lung or whatever. You sound a lot better this week than you did last week. I'll say that. Yeah. So I was just like when I would talk, I was just coughing a lot and things like that. So I don't know, but I'm trying to. I've woken up, went to the gym, I've tried to eat. My mom wants me to get me on this diet where it's like keto, the keto diet. Oh, yeah. I've heard of keto. Where it's like she just thinks it's like, oh, yeah. We need to get you on the keto diet. But I don't know. This world is very tricky because it's like, on one hand, like, 70% of the population believes in Jesus Christ. It's like, you know what? That sounds pretty illogical to me. Like, if we're to, like, judge people or whatever, it's just like, yeah. this guy goes and walks on water and multiplies bread and, like, whatever. Comes back to life and, like, all these things, and he's like God or whatever on earth and can do anything. And then on the other side, it's like, but you're telling me that my beliefs are, like, raw, that they're crazy or something like that. It's like you guys literally go to church every Sunday for, like, these things for, like, this guy. And I'm like, it's like the majority of people I feel like haven't even read the book. It's like Christ says that everybody's gods and, like, you are all gods and all this stuff. And then he says, like, he hates, like, the organization of, like, organizations. It's like, what he has was, like, much more organic or whatever. It's just like, geez. And, and the book goes to, like, say, is God a spirit, or is God a man? That argument is even in the Bible or whatever. And just people are just like, meh. But I don't know. It's like I don't like to necessarily go there with people, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm being considered crazy, then it's like, why is everybody else getting this freebie of just, like, believing in Jesus and heaven and hell and all this stuff? I'm just like, people literally believe that the earth is 2,000 years old or whatever. You know what I mean? They're, like, 6,000 years old. I mean, like, dinosaurs never existed, and it's like, I'm the crazy one? You guys believe that literally there's whole organizations put on earth to take you, like, get you to, like, not believe in Jesus Christ or God. You guys literally believe that it's like these institutions that are set up to have all this data of, like, evolution and all these things are literally, like, built by Satan to make you not believe in Jesus Christ. And that the whole world is lying to you about the age of the earth and the age of everything. At some point in time, I believe that everybody has to have, like, their own perception of what God is. You know what I mean? If it's something ridiculous, like, for me, it's like, God is a single point, which, I feel like the reason you don't talk about it so much is because it does make things ridiculous. It's like God is ridiculous. It's like as much as everything is real, bringing up the idea of God makes everything imaginary. Because it's this idea that everything comes from the same place. And so everything's the same thing, essentially. So everybody's basically just experiencing some cycle where they are envisioning themselves in reality over and over and over kind of thing. And you can make up whatever you want inside of this reality, even parallels about reality of where you end up and where we came from and all these different things. Like, I can come up with stories. I can make up stories that sound cool about where you go, where we came from, and what divides the spirits and all these things. You know what I mean? Just like I can make up a whole belief system if I want to. Not that hard. And I can probably make it sound cooler than a lot of what everybody else thinks is true. But it's just like, I'm the one being criticized and, like, shot up the butt with, like, all these chemicals because of, you know what, I just didn't for some reason, capitalism failed me. And, like, this competitive system and this competitive market and a lot of these things, and I sort of rebelled against it. And it's just like, I'm the guy who, like, gets taken away for believing that when, essentially, it's like, you guys are believing in insanity. So I don't know. Like, not to, like, say everybody has the right to believe in what they want, but when I'm being persecuted for what I believe, I'm gonna bring up what everybody else believes too. You know what I mean? Especially when it's, like, physical repercussions. Right. I noticed so religion is something that you bring up a lot in sessions. Yeah. Because it is. Like, it's like half the world is, you know what I mean? Especially in the United States, it's all Judeo-Christian or whatever. Right. But I'd say even more personally, it's from what I've kinda gathered, it's a big theme to your parents. Right? Yeah. My parents are devout. Like, my mom goes to the temple, like, every, like, week or two or whatever. And it's like, you know what? I have on set. I was like, yeah. I don't believe in Jesus Christ. And my dad was like, I think you're born in the wrong family. I was like, whoa. I was like, I just think it's like a mythical tale or whatever, just like Santa Claus but it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean, like it's like, sure. You can have an example. It's like, does this story have value? Sure. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, does the attributes have value? Did the argument of whether God is a man or a spirit, and is everybody connected to this, or is it just one single Messiah who has more power than everybody else? Like, there's value in those discussions. You know, I will say that, but it's like, yeah, it's pretty difficult when it's like, I'm the only one who believes what I believe in kind of thing and in, like, the whole state or whatever, but especially with no right. You know? So which I think probably problems, but at least a lot of issues because for you personally because it's like I am different. Right? Yeah. I live particularly, like, in the situation right now, it's you, your mom, and your dad. Right? It's the three of you living at home, and you're the one who does not believe in religion. Yet you feel like and notice that religion has played an impact in your life in many different ways because I believe differently, because I see differently. Look what's happened to me. You know? I'm perceived as crazy or something's wrong with me because I don't follow the status quo of everybody else. Right? Yeah. And, again, it's like, I understand, like, doing illegal things. Like, I never did that. Like, It's like you're there, it's just like, okay. Well, and it just made me feel like I really have no rights at all, you know, because it's like I wasn't. They were just like, oh, we can't speak to him or whatever. I'm just like, geez. Like, did it ever occur to you that I didn't want to talk to you or whatever? But they're just like, no. You couldn't because of a disease or something like that. And I was like, holy cow. Like, it's not like I was going out and living in this world and not communicating with anybody. Like, I had conversations all the time outside of our own, like, residence. You know? It's like to be something who is participating in this world, I had to be communicating with people. And like I said, I have, like, 6 months worth of record of me, like, just doing a journal online, and number one bothered to pay attention or whatever. And she's like, yeah. Okay. Well, he is, like, still speaking in and doing all these things, and it's like, these are the thoughts that he has, and this is the belief system that he has. He's just like, no. She's like, nobody paid attention to me or listened to me at all. And it really ended up in a bad situation because the people that they did listen to was like, no. I'd like, sorry. It's, like, so hard for me to believe that Joseph Smith was like this. I don't know. Like, this character that I should believe in. It's like, if we believe in any book, there's, like, tons of books that have, like, good stories in them. It's like, why don't we form a religion around, like, Dr. Seuss or something? It's like there's a lot of good stuff in it. You probably could, and you could probably come to as much moral and ethical, like, principles as, like, formulating a book around Joseph Smith, which it's just like, you know, it's just like, I don't want to believe in something where it's like the main dialogue of life doesn't agree with it. You know, it's like, I don't think that there's some great conspiracy of some being trying to, like, I don't know, like, make Earth have, like, all these different arguments which are from Satan to, like, get you away from the church. It's like if the educational system says that Joseph Smith, like, said a bunch of wrong things about these different Egyptian hieroglyphs, you know, which there is out there. She's like, all this hieroglyphs in the Book of Mormon. It's just like, yeah. He, like, says this is, like, Abraham or whatever, like, being sacrificed on this thing, but it's like, no. It's like the actual Egyptian, like, interpretation is like, oh, this is like Anubis, and it's like people going into the underworld or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, it's like some representation of their religion. It's just like things like that. And it's like you can tell where he, like, drew in, like, on the picture. I'm just like, I don't believe, and people are just like, you have to have faith. You can't believe that. You have to have faith. That's Satan. I was like, holy cow. Do I really believe that? Like, 99% of the world is lying to me right now about, like, what this actually says. And I just have to believe that it's Satan and I'm not having enough faith in Joseph Smith or something. I'm like, you guys are crazy. You guys are literally, like, believe that the whole institution, that these multiple institutions are lying to you guys. Like, seriously. Like, it's bad. That is horrible. And I believe that's why there's a lot of videos about people trying to escape Mormonism or whatever. You know, I'm just like, seriously, you believe seriously? It's like, what can you believe then? And there are people, just because I've grown up in the church my whole life, there are people that really only listen to like the prophets. You know what I mean? It's like I come in a household from a very devout religion, like LDS family, and it's like, yeah. You know what I mean? Besides their work, my parents literally, they have manuals by the prophets and things like that. My brothers do. Are you the only one in your family who's not? I have a sister who's not. But your sister? Yeah. So, how did your family respond to you not being active or leaving? How did they respond to your sister? She says a lot of, behind her back. People speak behind her back. There's definitely that. That she's just not on the right path or whatever. Okay. Do you hear that? And if, like, they probably say that about you behind you? Oh, yeah. Sure. But it's like, nobody said it directly to my face. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. Right. They're not saying I know. It's like, why didn't it's just like and I'll say that. Like, if I was really, like, whatever, crazy, why didn't you guys just tell me? Nobody literally came up to me and was like, we think you're crazy because of this. They just avoided me. And they didn't, you know what I mean? Like, but now it's bad. Now it's like, yeah. I am crazy because you know what I mean? Like, just you know what I mean? Like, not even just looking at the faith and the religion kind of thing. It's like this experience with, like, the state and, like, my rights being revoked and all these experiences that I've had. Yeah. Now you guys can, like, say stuff. It's like, yeah. I'm fighting for my life. You know? But, yeah, it's like I'm sure you know growing up in church or whatever that's like, yeah. There are some people that only listen to, like, the Friend manual, like, the Friend magazine that comes out and, like, every once in a while, different prophets will release a book or whatever, and it's like, has what you're supposed to focus on in life and don't believe or listen to any of these things or whatever. And it's like, this is what life is. And it's just like, yeah. A lot of people, that's the only form of, like, thing that they believe in. And it's like, I think the human being is a troubling character anyways. It's like, we're supposed to try to, like, navigate these waters of, like, being instinctual things that reproduce and all this stuff. But at the same point in time, we have to be above animals, because all that stuff is, like, primitive. And so we have to be something that thinks and reasons and, like, doesn't associate, like, certain activities in certain places. We have all these different, areas where we separate the human being from being an animal. I'm just like, it's hard enough as it is. Like, that's the real struggle. You know what I mean? Like, that's the real dilemma of man or whatever. But do you feel like what you believe, whether it be that God is there, God is not, or higher power, whatever it is, do you feel like it changes who you are as a person, though? Well, it's hard to say. I feel like I would be a different person if I grew up in a different place. Definitely. Totally. Totally. But guess you know what I mean? I'm saying this present moment. Yeah. But I don't know if it's getting you could, like, say in agnosticism, which is like you can either prove or disprove God. You know what I mean? Right. But I guess what I'm trying to ask is, if you take religion out of your DNA, your personality, whatever you wanna however you wanna phrase it. I mean, are you different of a person? Right? Because you church does not, that's not so. You align with. Right? I think so because it's like, this struggle has definitely been a huge part of my life. And it's like I would never have come to like these thoughts or my form of expression unless this little, irritation or whatever hadn't been there. It's like this is definitely part of me. Now this whole dilemma of religion. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. It's, I try to think like, what would have been different in my life if I would have, but it's, like, it's hard to say that without saying you've become a different person. And I feel like, really, we can go into some discussion of, like, what soul is and whether or not your soul actually changes, throughout, or it's like the same Dylan, through existence. Like, I feel like that's where this conversation goes. Because if I look at it rationally, it's like, yeah. Without all these things, I would never be this Austin before you. I'd be completely something else. But, obviously, it's like there are discussions, in this world where people have about what is the soul and whether or not somebody's intrinsic soul is something that can change over time or whether or not Dylan is like Dylan through eternity. Kinda thing. It's like, am I the same person? No matter what has happened to me, it's like I feel like it's a very debatable topic. It's very debatable. Because it's like, you can say that everything has changed and what am I but experiencing individuality into the moment that I actually feel that I'm a part of something greater, then it's like that actually is death. It's like, and it's scary to lose yourself. I feel like that's what death is. You become lost, basically. But it's like you become something greater, at the same point in time. What life is experiencing the separation of individuals. That's what life is. We obviously understand everything is connected. Everything is connected, and everything is technically the same thing. It's like, we're all matter or whatever. We're all, made of particles that come from the same place or are a part of the same thing or whatever. But the reason we don't experience that is because to experience life, we have to experience individuality and separation. You know what? And there are certain things in most religions which probably speak about stuff like this. You know what I mean about beings, having soul, which is separate from certain things. I wrote something on a soul the other day, but it's like, when I came to the conclusion of about whether or not Austin changes if you introduce these different things to him. I concluded that without the unknown, it's like you have to include the unknown. Otherwise, you're missing the part of what it is to be alive and what it is to be, like, one with God. It's the unknown. And I feel like without the unknown, it's like we can try to understand, but without me saying, to some extent, I don't know, it's not true. The unknown, that part where I don't know has to be a part of it. Otherwise, it's like life ceases to be or the soul ceases to be. The soul is something that is unknown. This idea of what Austin is in continually portraying himself, as something that is the same or separate, just or, like, regarding certain conversations or certain pathways in life. Unless I include the unknown, which I feel like the soul could be sort of, like, captured with that statement. Soul is unknown, and in the idea of what goes after life, we don't know. I feel like there's more magic in that. It should be exciting. And life should be exciting. We don't know. You know what I mean? But that's just what I came to. Like, do I really change? Am I influenced by specific monuments in my life which characterize who I am, or am I something beyond that? But I just feel like the most appropriate answer is to say, I don't know. I think that the unknown is an integral part of who we are and, where we go. And, there are certainly things that I don't know. And I've tried to, as you can tell, I've had a lot of these conversations just with myself in a book. Just writing about it myself, just like I guess you'd like some prophet would or something like that. I don't say that I'm, like, some prophet, but it's like you know what I mean? Heaven forbid, I go around saying I'm a prophet because that would he is crazy or whatever. But I've definitely, in my own poetry and, my own journals, I've confronted these things. How does something separate itself out to be an individual in light of God, which is the unification of all things? You know? And I feel like that's actually the valuable part of the story of Jesus Christ, because is God a man? And it's like, I can make use of the story. I really can. And it's fine if people want to have a religion about it. I don't care. You guys can have religion about Jesus Christ. That's totally fine with me. But I do see value in the story because it's the idea of, are we living interpreters of God or not? But see, I can't go to church and say this. Otherwise, people are like, what the hell? They're just like, you're not following. Shouldn't I be asking these questions? And it's just like, you shouldn't be. That's for the prophet to decide and all this stuff. This isn't doctrine or gospel. This isn't, true gospel or true doctrine or something like that. Just like, you know what? I think that the story of Jesus Christ has value in the idea of what we say the individual is versus the collective. It's a man who portrays himself as God, which is the organization of all things. But how at the same time is he something that's separate from God, but here on earth, he performs miracles big and small, which means that he does normal things, eating or whatever else, until he obviously suffers in the Garden of Yosemite or fast for 40 days and 40 nights or whatever kind of thing, just to show that he's not, light in what your spirit see. There's tons of stuff you can, accrue from that story. It's just like, are we something that exists beyond our primitive instincts? Right? It's just like, it's all there. It's just like, yeah. It's in that story. It's like, cool. But it's like, I don't want to say that that's the only story where we can, come to these conclusions about what life is and what happens after life. And now, it's in C. I can't, say that. There are others who are like, you don't believe in Jesus. I was like, holy cow. That's not exactly what I said. But people, this is too big of a conversation for most people of what I've understood. People just want to go to work and make their money and do what they're told and, you know what I mean, have simple conversations and go to sleep, and then one day wake up and die or whatever. These conversations hurt. They're hard. Because they test your ability to come up with your own sense of morals and ethics, or your own sense of what reality is, and your own sense of what the soul is and the purpose of life and what happens after life kind of thing. It makes you have to formulate all that stuff on your own, and I've done that. I've lived through myself and formulated all these, you know what I mean? I live my own religion or whatever. I'm not going around trying to preach to anybody, but, when my life is in danger or somebody or something like that, I will say these things. And sometimes it doesn't work out in my favor because I've been in these places, and I'll say stuff like this. And I'm like, that's all everyone's doing is trying to figure this out. So why am I being penalized? Why am I being man? This is crazy that this is my life. Why, you know what I mean? I never imagined it would be here, man. I thought it would just be having a job and whatever else. I thought I would, but no. It's like I literally am, being sort of, whipped. You know what I mean? It's not whipped. It's metaphorically, it's like all these drugs and stuff to try to, change my ways or, give me, but it's like, I'm talking to you, and I feel like I'm saying stuff that has reason to it. You know, whether or not you believe that, I feel I believe that. I believe that what I'm saying has a foundation somewhere. You know, it's founded off philosophy and stuff. But, yeah, a lot of the stuff in today's world is not seen as, yeah. It's you're competing with the system. You know? You're not participating, or you're saying that it's like the system as it can change. The system is not necessarily what you believe it to be, and that frightens people. And, you know what, it frightens people, I feel like, a lot because it challenges their beliefs. And they're like, this dude is, crazy. And I'm just like, holy cow. I could write down every word that I said, and, trust me. I bet you that some people that do exist in this world will look at it and be like, yes, that makes sense. Just because it doesn't make sense to you or whoever else I'm talking to. You know what I mean? Like, just because it doesn't make sense to you, I'm sure that there's people out there that what I'm saying makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, and it's terrible. It's terrible to have a conversation like this and then people, like, write down like, seriously, I've had conversations like this with doctors, and they'll walk out of the room. And then the next thing I know is they come in and they're like, we're giving you a shock. After I've had this exact conversation. And they come back in, and they said, we've concluded that you're schizophrenic, and we would like to give you a shot. I said, do I have an option? They say, no. I can't call anybody. It's like I can try, it's like I go to mental health court, but I can't say anything. If I say this, it goes over everybody's head. Am I really saying that much stuff that goes out over everybody's head? Like, that is crazy to me. That is so crazy to me that it's like, am I really saying stuff that goes over people's heads? They're just like, whoa. What is he saying? Because to me, what I'm saying is perfect, makes perfect sense. And it's like I feel like I could write it down in a book. It might be a book that might be too hard. Maybe it really is. Maybe the book's grammar and the literacy level is too hard for most people to understand. It might actually be. I don't know what else I could say. Like, it really might be that I'm using too big of words, and I'm coming to too many conclusions or something like that. But I've had this conversation, and people come in with a shot, and they say, we've diagnosed you with schizophrenia. We're gonna give you a shot. And then I can't even speak anymore. So I've just learned I can save this stuff on YouTube. Right? I can go onto YouTube and I can save this stuff, and I can just be quiet and in the everywhere else. Right? It's like, okay. Like, I'll say my two-piece. And that's why I fear so much that it's like, I hope my YouTube channel just get down. It's like my only place where I can be myself and, like, say stuff like this. And I feel like it will make sense to somebody eventually. And somebody will be able to see, like, yes. The world is like that, or that is actually going on. And you know what? They'd be like, whoa. This dude was, like, imprisoned by the system because of this. It's like, I don't even feel like I'm saying anything that's violent or that irritating. You know? But, yeah, man. Dylan, I know that's another, like, whoa. There it is again. You know? Like, the same story kinda thing, but maybe I've said it clearer today than I have in the past or something. But yeah. So it's just like I've come to realization, like, I better just be quiet and, like, participate in everything. And I'm not gonna say this stuff outside of where I have my journal, my video journal or something like that, obviously, to my therapist. And don't you worry. I don't have a shop waiting for you. So this, yeah. And it's like, hopefully, your notes program is taking this all down. So if it seems like it's going over your head now, you can read it and make sense of it or whatever. Right? Just like, okay. Maybe this does make sense, but I have to reread it. I even have that problem with books sometimes. Just like, I have to reread it. You know? But I don't know. So there it is. But and yeah. So I've just learned. And it's I'm trying to learn where I can step without causing problems. Yeah. So it's like, before, I was just laying down all day because I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of doing anything. You know? But, yeah, now it's like careful. There's enough time that's passed. If it's like, yeah. I'm trying to do more streaming. I'm trying to do some of this stuff. I'm trying to be a little bit more active. It still gets kinda hard because I don't make any money, and I'm relying upon my parents and all this stuff. You know? But yeah. So I've just, you know what I mean? Like, I just back off. I don't even talk about this with anybody. You know? Like, I'll I say it on my YouTube channel, put the message in the bottle, throw it out to sea. I hope somebody receives it. Right? Well, it's not you know what. Like, it's just like at least what I said was preserved. Just like it's like at least what I was, like, I was able to define myself somewhere. You know what I mean? It's like, I hope it's a record for people that might have issues like this. People that want to try to, like, figure out, you know what? Like, what is the truth in this world kinda thing. It's like it's there if people actually really want to listen someday. Yeah. So that's the thing is we all have our different beliefs. And that's part of being an American, I guess, you could say, is we have the opportunity to believe what you want to believe. And as long as you're not hurting others, it's okay. Right? You can have yeah. It seems I've the thing is, like, that's where I was like, okay. But I'm being hurt by other people, and I'm not hurting anybody. Right. 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 So it's like I feel like, okay. The American system didn't necessarily defend me. You know? Or whatever. But it's you know what I mean? Like, to what degree do I have to say that I deserve a better life than anybody in history? I mean, sure. There's been people that probably, like, woke up, never got any luck of anything, and died and just had a horrible you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's happened. So it's like, you know, maybe that's somewhat a part of my life. I don't know. Hopefully, I can break out of it. But, yeah, anyways, there's today's interaction. You know what? I would like if you're into you know what I mean. If you're a person who likes to try to understand these things, it's like, cool. We can have it'd be great to have somebody I can have a conversation with where it's like, we try to understand where the idea of a story begins and reality or, like, the story ends and reality begins kinda thing. You know? It's like, cool. Like, have somebody to talk to about that. I don't know. I'm not you know what? Our role as a patient and a practitioner, like, I'm sure it's constantly changing. It's like, you know what? And it doesn't need to change fast, and maybe it can grow into something where it feels much more like just an interaction you know, kinda thing, I would hope so. Yeah. And then we can definitely talk about some of that stuff if you want. As long as yeah. Whatever. As long as it's forwarding the goal of me coming to a better place. Exactly. So it's like yeah. You know, we can talk about whatever as long as we're accomplishing these goals. So yeah. Yep. But man. Well, that's time for today. So thanks for sharing. It's always good to see you, dude. Yeah. No problem. So does your notes app take those notes then? Yep. Cool. Could you send those to me? Yeah. You could? Alright. Yeah. Just email me today's notes. I would like to have a copy of that. Okay. Like, that's okay. So the way it does it is it just kind of gives me, like, Spark notes, basically. Like, client talked about it does. So it's not like a direct yeah. Okay. Transfer. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. I'll see what it looks like okay. If that's okay. I just wanted to see what it kinda took note of and see if I can maybe come to some better understanding of what I believe even, by reading it or something like that. But, yeah, you have my email. Right? Yeah. I do. Okay. Cool. I'll look for it. But I know we gotta go. So man. I'll see you next week. Alright? Alright. See you, Dylan. Bye. Bye.